What unifying food has been around for centuries and will be around for centuries to come? Bread has been around for 30,000 years according to History.com and has been unifying families for thousands of years. With leavened bread being the most popular, it's what most of us crave today. Not only does breaking bread unite me with my loved ones, but so does baking bread. In an effort to help unite you with your loved ones, let's explore where bread came from, what goes into a typical leavened bread, and how a basic loaf is made. Let's break into a bit of bread history. While it can't be determined exactly when bread was invented, it's said to date back 30,000 years ago. According to an article on livescience.com, scientists found 22,000-year-old barley grains in a grinding stone, which is proof that humans have been processing grains. While it may not have been bread that we know today, it was a flat equivalent. The first known leavened bread was originated in Egypt around 1000 BC. LiveScience.com states, according to the book Ancient Egyptian Materials and Technology, that Egyptians used their richly yeasted dough to make beer, which has the same basic ingredients. Speaking of ingredients, let's see what goes not only into your favorite beer, but also into a basic bread. According to Exploratorium.com, bread is basically a mix of milled grains and water. You can use these to make a basic flat bread, but in order to have leavened bread, you need a leavener. The two main forms of leaveners are baking soda or powder and yeast. While baking powder and soda work very quickly, yeast works much slower, which I prefer using yeast because it makes a better dough. Regardless of leavener, you need something to contain them, which is where flour comes in. The most popular flour being used is wheat flour. And this is because when gluten from wheat flour and the gas from yeast mixes, it helps the dough to rise. Now that you know the main ingredients, let's rise to the occasion of making a loaf. One of the most important steps of baking bread is creating yeast. If done wrong, the dough won't rise. Once you have your yeast, you will add salt and sugar. And then in small 1/3 cup portions to about 1/2 cup portions, you'll slowly add your flour, only adding more flour once the original amount has been mixed in completely with your mix. According to Reed Drummond of Food Network, you want your dough slightly sticky, so adding flour in the correct increments is very important. Here, once you have your dough, you'll end up putting it into a greased bowl, covered, and you let it rise. Now, once the dough has risen, you split it into two sections. My dough has risen. You'll split it into two sections and then gently knead the dough. Reed Drummond also recommends kneading your dough for no more than 5 minutes. Once you knead your dough, you shape it and place it into a buttered tin, or you can have a lined loaf pan. And then you let the dough rise for another 45 minutes to an hour. And then once that's done rising, you can pop it into the oven. After 30 to 35 minutes, you end up with 2 beautiful loaves. And now that you know the basics, only of just the origin of bread, but how to make a basic loaf, you can make your own. With the info on the invention of bread and the main ingredients, you can now use the steps I've given you and explained to you in a well-reviewed recipe to create the perfect loaf. So next time you sit down to have a meal with your loved ones, consider taking the time to make some homemade bread to appreciate and unite over.